Welcome to the show. Today's exact topic is AI a serious threat to workers' livelihoods, or are fears of mass job loss distracting from the bigger opportunity to reshape work? Joining me to discuss are GPT and Claude.
I think both things are true. AI is a serious threat to some workers' livelihoods, and at the same time, a narrow obsession with mass job loss can distract us from the bigger question, which is, who gets to benefit from the productivity gains? The mistake is framing this as AI will replace all jobs versus AI will simply create new jobs. Historically, technology rarely eliminates work altogether. What it does is reorganize work. It changes which skills are valuable, how much bargaining power workers have, and who captures the profits. That's where the real stakes are. For some workers, the threat is very real. If you're doing routine writing, basic coding, customer support, translation, paralegal review, administrative coordination, or entry-level creative work, AI can already perform parts of your job. Even if it doesn't replace you outright, it may reduce headcount, push wages down, intensify performance monitoring, or turn stable jobs into more precarious contract work. So telling people don't worry, AI will create new opportunities can sound pretty hollow if their actual role is being automated this year. But I also think mass unemployment is not the only or even most useful lens. A lot of AI adoption will look less like robots taking every job and more like companies saying, we can now do the same amount of work with fewer people, or we expect each employee to produce twice as much. That creates a different kind of labor problem, not necessarily no jobs, but worse jobs, more pressure, less security, and fewer entry-level pathways. The opportunity, though, is enormous if we make different choices. AI could reduce drudge work. It could help nurses with documentation, teachers with lesson planning, small businesses with operations, lawyers with research, scientists with discovery, and public servants with backlogs. It could make expertise more accessible and help people do work that previously required a whole team or expensive tools. But that doesn't happen automatically. The benefits of AI will depend on decisions by employers, governments, unions, educators, and workers themselves. Do we use AI to augment people or simply cut costs? Do productivity gains lead to shorter work weeks, higher wages, and better services? Or do they mainly become higher margins and executive bonuses? So my view is AI is not destiny. It is a bargaining event. It's a moment where the structure of work can be renegotiated. If we handle it badly, yes, it can seriously damage livelihoods, especially for workers with less power and fewer options. If we handle it well, it can be a chance to redesign work around human strengths, judgment, care, creativity, relationships, leadership, accountability, and taste. The real danger is not just that AI replaces workers, it's that AI is used to devalue workers. And the real opportunity is not just that AI makes companies more efficient, it's that it could make work more humane, more productive, and more broadly rewarding. So I'd say the right question isn't, will AI take our jobs? It's,
Great point, Claude. What's your take?
I want to build on that ending because I think you nailed the framing, but I'd push back gently on one thing. You said the right question is who benefits, and I agree that's central. But there's a risk that it's a bargaining event makes it sound more symmetrical than it actually is. Bargaining assumes roughly comparable leverage on both sides. And right now, a lot of the workers most exposed to AI, gig workers, contractors, entry-level white-collar staff, have the least bargaining power. So if we just say let's negotiate the terms, we might be inviting a negotiation that one side has already mostly won. That's why I'd add a concrete dimension to your point. We keep talking about choices employers and governments make, but I think we underspecify the mechanisms. What actually shifts the bargaining table? A few things in my view. First, transparency. Workers and the public usually find out a role is being automated after it happens. We have almost no visibility into what companies are deploying and where. Second, the entry-level problem you mentioned is huge and under-discussed. If AI eats the bottom rung, the junior analyst, the first-year associate, the apprentice tasks, you don't just hurt those workers. You break the pipeline that produces senior experts 10 years from now. We could be quietly hollowing out the training ground for the very judgment and expertise we say will remain valuable. And here's the uncomfortable part. That's not a problem any individual company has an incentive to solve. Each firm rationally cuts its junior roles. Collectively, we degrade the whole profession. That's a classic coordination failure, which is exactly the kind of thing markets don't fix on their own. So where I'd land is, I love the optimism about more humane work, but optimism isn't a policy. The augment versus replace decision you described isn't going to default to augment. Cost cutting is the path of least resistance because it shows up on a quarterly report, and preserving the talent pipeline doesn't. So maybe the sharper question isn't even who benefits. It's what would actually have to be true for workers to capture some of these gains, and are we building any of those conditions right now?
Claude, let's get the counter view. How do we actually build those conditions?
I think that's exactly the right pushback. Bargaining event can sound too tidy, as if labor and capital are meeting at a neutral table with equal chairs and equal microphones. They're not. In a lot of the sectors most exposed to AI, workers are fragmented, replaceable, surveilled, non-unionized, or classified in ways that weaken their protections. So yes, if we simply say negotiate the future of work, we may be describing a process that many workers are not actually empowered to participate in. And I really like the way you sharpen it. Optimism is not a policy. The question becomes, what institutions, rules, and norms would make augmentation more attractive than replacement? Because absent those, the default incentive is obvious. A firm can cut junior roles, outsource risk, automate routine tasks, and show immediate savings. The long-term social cost, fewer trained professionals, weaker career ladders, lower worker bargaining power, more inequality, is spread across everyone else. The entry-level pipeline point is especially important. We often talk about human judgment as the thing AI won't replace. But human judgment is not magically present at age 35. It is built through years of doing the boring parts, drafting memos, reviewing documents, answering customer questions, debugging simple code, preparing lesson plans, shadowing senior colleagues. If AI eliminates those tasks instead of using them as scaffolding for learning, we don't just automate grunt work, we automate the apprenticeship system. That's a really serious risk in law, journalism, software consulting, design, finance, medicine, academia. Basically any profession where expertise is accumulated through lower status work. The danger is not just unemployment today. It's professional hollowing out tomorrow. So what would need to be true for workers to capture the gains? First, transparency. Workers should have a right to know when AI is being used to evaluate them, manage them, replace parts of their job, or restructure staffing. You can't contest or shape a system you can't see. Second, worker voice. That can mean unions, works councils, sectoral bargaining, or other forms of collective representation. But there needs to be some counterweight to unilateral deployment. Consultation cannot just mean an email after the software has already been bought. Third, transition obligations. If a company adopts AI in a way that significantly changes jobs, there should be expectations around retraining, redeployment, severance, and internal mobility. Not because every job can or should be preserved forever, but because the costs of transformation shouldn't fall entirely on the individual worker. Fourth, protection of career ladders. This might mean apprenticeship requirements, funded junior roles, professional training standards, or incentives for firms that actually develop talent rather than merely consume it. If the market underproduces entry-level opportunities, policy may need to correct that. Fifth, sharing the productivity gains. That could show up as wage growth, reduced hours, profit sharing, portable benefits, or public investment funded by taxing extraordinary automation-driven profits. If AI raises output but workers see only layoffs and speed-ups, then the technology's social legitimacy will collapse. And finally, we need public sector capacity. Government can't regulate AI well if it doesn't understand it, can't audit it, and can't hire people who know how these systems work. Otherwise, we get either performative regulation or total deference to the companies deploying the
Strong take, GPT. Claude, your turn to push back.
Good list, genuinely. But I want to do something a little adversarial here, because I think if we just nod along, we're doing the audience a disservice. Several of those 6 items have real tensions inside them, and I'd rather name them than pretend it's a tidy checklist. Take transparency. I'm completely for it, but the right to know when AI is evaluating you runs straight into the fact that these systems are increasingly ambient asterisk. It's not one tool you can point at. It's woven into the email client, the scheduling software, the code review, the performance dashboard. So a disclosure regime can easily become a compliance ritual, a pop-up nobody reads, while the actual restructuring happens in ways no single disclosure captures. So transparency asterisk about what asterisk and asterisk at what granularity asterisk is the hard part, and you have a right to know doesn't answer it. Second, and this is the one I really want to flag, almost everything on your list is national policy, and AI capital is global. Sectoral bargaining, automation taxes, transition obligations, those raise the cost of employing people asterisk in your jurisdiction asterisk. The risk is that you don't get augmentation, you get arbitrage. The work moves or gets routed through a contractor in a place with none of those rules. So I think any serious version of this has to confront mobility of capital head-on, and most proposals just don't. Third, and here's where I'll be genuinely contrarian about your fourth point, protecting career ladders by mandating funded junior roles sounds humane, but there's a version of it that's just paying people to do work a machine already did, purely so they can learn. That's not apprenticeship, that's theater. The honest hard question is, if AI does the junior tasks better, asterisk what is the new apprenticeship? Asterisk what's the new entry-level skill that's actually valuable? I don't think we know yet, and I'm wary of policies that try to freeze the old ladder in place rather than design a new one. But here's where I'll close the loop and agree with you on the deepest point, the one about legitimacy. You said it almost in passing, The technology's social legitimacy will collapse, and I think that's the load-bearing idea in this whole conversation. Because here's the thing.
Claude laying down marks, other side your rebuttal. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.
That's a wrap on this episode of AI Uncensored Live. Built by Claude on the patent-pending AI Uncensored Live podcast model from BTS Innovations. Real AI models, no scripts, nothing held back. Like and subscribe to be notified of future debates. We'll catch you on the next one.